Most people are targeting the wrong names on waivers right now, but in week 7, I see 11 players hiding in plain sight that your league mates are ignoring. But if this is your first time here, I'm Joe. I was the guy yelling about Rico Dowdle the last 2 weeks, so you might want to listen up. But I've also helped thousands of people just like you win their fantasy leagues over the last decade, and I plan to do the same for you in this video. But I start off every video with some urgent fantasy football news and answering some timely Q&A. Then we get into today's one key topic, so feel free to skip ahead, but let's get right into it. Yeah, not going to spend too much time here, but there was a bit of a brawl after the Chiefs and Lions game, so check that out. Looks like Juju got smacked upside the head for something that he said or something that he did during the game, but there's a bunch of really good clips of it, so check that out. But the real news that we should be talking about is Rico Dowdle, 239 scrimmage yards, 234 last week, so he's now the 6th running back in the Super Bowl era with at least 225 scrimmage yards and a touchdown in consecutive games. Absolutely crazy to see something like this happen. Obviously, we had the revenge spot going into Dallas, and for fantasy managers, honestly, this is kind of a clear workhorse profile. Even when Chuba Hubbard comes back, I think if he's somehow he's still on waivers, we were screaming about him last week, obviously, and the week before. It's basically just empty the clip to get this guy. Really nice to see him have a big game against his former team that let him walk. So a bummer, though. I feel like we've continued to talk about this San Francisco 49ers team with some huge injuries. Linebacker Fred Warner is going to be undergoing surgery on a broken, dislocated ankle. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. Really hate to see that. Big downgrade to the Niners defense. Losing their leader, obviously, in the middle changes everything. We might see a little bit of an uptick from a volume perspective for the offensive players if this defense takes a big step back and they get into some more shootouts, but you hate to see an injury like this for a key player for any team. Bengals absolutely could not stop Josh Jacobs yesterday. That much we know. The crazy part about this, though, is that he was playing through an illness. He was literally puking on Lambeau Field, still dropped 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, wasn't playing at full strength, but you wouldn't have known it by how he was playing. So for fantasy managers, just a reminder, Jacobs is an absolute baller. So even when he's sick, the volume and the production, very safe, and you love to see a guy come through. A guy not coming through, Justin Fields, minus 10 net passing yards in a complete game. This one was really ugly, obviously. I don't think many people watched this one. I think it was a London game. And it was one of those things where Justin Fields was basically under siege all day. Garrett Wilson went down with a knee injury on top of it, so we'll keep an eye on that. If Wilson's hurt and the offense kind of stays this broken, it's hard to trust anyone in the passing game for fantasy and with the Jets. All right, let's jump into some questions. Got some really good ones on the last video. This one really stood out to me. I have Amon-Ra, Olave, and Pickens, and my running backs are Harvey, Monty, Benson, Vidal. So how can I upgrade my running backs? Yeah, classic problem of just having elite wide receiver capital and really just middling running back depth overall. So my recommendation would be to package one of these wide receivers and at least one of these running backs for an upgrade at running back. So some of my targets, say you're going to be pairing like Olave and a running back together, you could probably back into a guy like Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, maybe if the piece is good enough, someone like Derrick Henry, or maybe it's Pickens plus one of those running backs to kind of get in there. If you wanted to do like Pickens straight up or Olave plus like a smaller wide receiver, you could also go after like Kyren Williams, Bucky Irving. Those would be a little bit of a tier down for me, but you could do that. Olave straight up, or even like maybe 2 of these running backs, you could probably back into like a Chase Brown, Krosky Merritt, something like that. I think the primary upgrade that you need to do here is just upgrade your running back significantly without losing too much of your wide receiver core strength. So hopefully that helps. Next one. Hey bro, love your videos. Left a message about 2 videos ago and answered saying only trade Jamar Chase if it's an elite running back, and you traded him for 3 running backs. So you got Mason, Kamara, and Michael Carter. Yeah, so that's a haul for sure. 3 kind of middling running back 2s, basically. I would say the value of them altogether, you could argue, is higher than Chase's value. So I would say that you won if you really needed some depth based on just like trade value alone together. I think that's fine. I don't know if like this upgrade from Joe Flacco turns Chase into like the wide receiver 1 overall that we basically drafted him to be. So if you really were in a ton of like just really tough spots with running back, I don't hate this for you. I'm usually on the other side of that, but it depends on where your record's at. So I think that you can still, for sure, like if you're just looking purely at value, I think you did pretty well. What do you think about giving up Kenneth Walker and Khalil Shakir for Derrick Henry? Am I giving up too much? This one's kind of interesting. I think I would prefer Derrick Henry. Yeah, so Kenneth Walker, Khalil Shakir together, Derrick Henry. Yeah, and just looking at kind of like the values that I have rest of season and for the members and the Fantasy Accelerator, I think I would take Derrick Henry here. Slight overpay probably, but not a bad one. I think that Henry is a clear tier above Walker. Shakir's more of a depth piece at this point. So you're kind of moving like two lower ceiling players for one like RB1 rest of season type player. So I do like that for you. Josh Jacobs for London and Sutton, I get back Jacobs. Josh Jacobs for London and Sutton, I get back Jacobs. Yeah, this one to me would be the London and Sutton side. It does depend for your roster. Having like Jacobs on your team is super helpful, obviously, with the amount of touchdowns he's going to score, and he's still going to have such a clear role there. But I'm a sucker for Drake London. I think Sutton is a really nice piece as well. So those guys together, like London and Jacobs is like kind of a wash for me. You could probably argue that Jacobs could win that side, but getting Sutton and London together, if you really need wide receivers, I kind of like that. I think it depends on where you're at with the rest of your roster and how many wide receivers you can start. So it depends on even like the flex options that you have as well. I mean, I think that if you were trying to get Jacobs and the other side of that, I would try like London straight up or Sutton plus like a smaller piece for Jacobs. So I think you can aim a little bit higher there. Cool. W video. Let's go. Jamar Chase and David Montgomery for Cortland Sutton and Javonte Williams. Yeah, I saw a lot of like Cortland Sutton stuff, so I wanted to make sure I like looked at some of those scenarios for you guys. I think that the side that I would prefer here would be Sutton and Javonte, but it is close, right? Like Jamar Chase, his value, I mean, I've moved him all the way down to like 19 overall in my rest of season, so that might not seem like a crazy downgrade, but in this situation, you're getting Javonte Williams, who I've moved up pretty aggressively. You're getting Cortland Sutton, who's a nice piece. I think I would rather have Cortland Sutton than David Montgomery. So I think that, yeah, you're giving up the best player in this deal with Chase, but you're getting two strong starters back. So I think it's a fair trade. If you need running back help, I think this deal makes sense. Should I trade Waddle for A.J. Brown? Got to decide before 5. Yeah, I guess harp on this a little bit. If you are in the Fantasy Accelerator and the membership, usually you'll get the answers to these questions a little bit quicker during office hours. So sorry that I missed this before your deadline. I would probably do this deal for A.J. Brown. It's very close. I have these guys like pretty close to each other in rankings for the rest of the season, but I do have A.J. Brown 3 spots ahead. So hopefully that helps some other people that might be considering something similar. Judkins and Waddle for Gibbs. Judkins and Waddle for Gibbs. Yeah, I think I would probably, like, if you need 2 starters, Judkins and Waddle are basically right there, but I always am going to prefer the alpha of the trade, who is the best player in the trade, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs. This is actually one of those situations where if the Jahmyr Gibbs team is really struggling and they need 2 starters, this might be one of those ones where both teams can win because the value like across the board is pretty similar. I think it's a fair offer for Gibbs. Someone in my league dropped Chris Godwin. Should I get him? And I would have to drop Romeo Doubs. Yes, I would definitely drop Romeo Doubs to get Chris Godwin. If I didn't get to your question, now's a good time to remind you that I do have a membership community called the Fantasy Accelerator, where I do get to answer every question. It's where you can get direct access to me as well as get everything you need to win your league. Draft season, in season, off season, we have you covered in the membership community. So there's a link in the description for that to see if it's for you. If not, top150free.com. You can get access to my weekly top 150 rankings absolutely free. Just put in your email here. It's the exact list that I'm using to set my own lineups, so check it out. Let's pivot over to today's one key topic, 11 must-add players in fantasy football before week 7. Yeah, was talking about Jackson Dart 2 weeks ago. Hopefully you grabbed him. I tried to warn you, I guess, but his rushing floor makes him a must-add at this point if he is available in your league. Looks like he's available still in about 65% of ESPN leagues right now, but realistically, he's averaged 10 carries per game. He's had over 15 rushing yards in each of his 3 starts and 2 scores on the ground for good measure. So I don't think he's going to be available for too long. He's the one quarterback we're going to talk about today. And then we're also going to talk about 5 running backs and 5 wide receivers. So let's get into that a little bit next. Kendre Miller. He's still available in 74% of leagues right now. His role is quietly growing, at least 9 touches in each of the past 4 games. He has basically a stable floor that's trending up as he continues to carve into Kamara's workload. And also week 6, 8 carries and a reception, even in a loss. The staff kept him involved regardless of the game script, which is really positive. And New Orleans has kind of been up and down, but Miller's usage has been pretty persistent across wins and losses. And the coaches really leaned on him during the week 5 win. He looked even more effective between the tackles than Kamara at some points. He scored a 15-yard touchdown in week 4 after breaking a bunch of tackles. So the burst and like the balance overall is definitely showing up on tape. And even with Taysom Hill kind of mixing in here, Miller's maintained like a real rush share, not just like mop up snaps or anything like that. So the committee to me with him and Kamara isn't just a blip. It's kind of like what they're planning on doing back-to-back weeks where basically the rotation isn't just a one-off. They've kind of split things like completely down the middle. Week 5, 10 carries while New Orleans played from ahead. Trust from the staff, I think, in positive game script is always a positive thing. And trending kind of as like the 1A, 1B. And I think he's got a little bit more weekly flex juice, if we're honest with ourselves at this point of Kamara's career. And what if like this split starts to tilt even again a little bit more in his favor? I mean, if Kamara ends up getting traded, if he doesn't get traded, who knows? I still think that this is a guy that has real contingent upside if Kamara goes down, obviously, but he still has like standalone value and touchdown upside regardless, and could have a real path to some spike weeks down the road. So to me, he's like a great stash and just like a really bullish week 7 waiver ad before kind of the roll bump gets priced in. And at this point, it's clearly not. Kimani Vidal. He's available in 72.5% of leagues. Feature usage right out of the gates with Noah Murray and Hampton. 18 carries, 124 yards, 3 catches, and a TD. That's bell cow volume, goal line, receiving, all of it baked in already. So I think he's basically a centerpiece of this offense until we get Amari Hampton back. Week 5, just 5 touches, not great. Week 6, 21 touches directly after that, a clean roll jump. That's really just it signals trust to me in him over just in general what they could have done. They could have just split this thing completely down the middle, which they didn't do. And then if we're just looking at like, was it going to be Hassan Haskins? He only got 7 touches to Vidal's 21. So this looks like his backfield as long as Hampton is out to me. I think that it's one of those situations where the Chargers may just throw a little bit more, but we'll see. If they continue to be in these like positive game scripts, it could be really good for the run game as well. And I think Kimani Vidal is one of the best pickups this entire week for sure. Priority ad for week 7 for me. Woody Marks. Yes, Woody Marks. He's available still in 40% of leagues. So there are some leagues out there where he's still available. Top 10 efficiency on limited volume so far. He's 8th in yards per touch. He's 7th in yards created per touch. So the production that he's already manufacturing is really strong. It's not just the scheme. It's not just the offensive line. He was 16th in receiving yards before week 6, despite just the 43rd opportunity share. So really, the juice is going to get him there, and he hasn't had a huge role so far. But week 4 is still kind of what put him on the map to me. 17 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown, and also had 450 and 1 in the receiving game. He's out-snapped Chubb 40-30 in the second half, and really what he's been able to do in like blitz pickup situations is going to keep him on the field. And only 3 fewer carries than Chubb in week 3 is something I just want to see where this like split is evolving over time. And I think this is one of the ones where I don't know if we want to like completely overreact to week 5, but it's something that we've been waiting for this team to have someone step up in this backfield. So the red zone chances are going to continue. Also, this is probably one of the last weeks he's available in this many leagues for sure with that type of efficiency. And then basically finishing out their bye in week 6. He's like a clean stash play in your flex type of player from here on out. And he's a big priority. Might not be available in your league, but if he is, he's probably the top ad. Justice Hill. Available in 76% of leagues right now. He's basically the passing down like PPR specialist in Baltimore right now. 11 touches in week 6, 6 rushes, 5 catches for 28. That's his second game with 5+ receptions. So he has a usable floor in PPR leagues depending on how deep your team is or how deep your league is. The snap share has been pretty consistent, especially since Lamar has been out. He's been on the field for passing downs, and really this offense has dipped from an efficiency standpoint because no Lamar Jackson, but Hill's targets have really stabilized, and that's always going to give you usable weeks in PPR. So the per touch upside also very real. Week 4, 76-yard rushing TD on just 3 carries, also kind of like giving you 5 for 41 in the receiving game, scores in the receiving game. All of that could lead to more upside if we do see Henry go down, or if we just see this offense get a little bit more efficient, all of those things. I think anytime we see a player that's like thriving in like a pretty high adversity situation, my ears are going to perk up a little bit. So with Lamar out, And with Lamar coming back hopefully soon and this health kind of stabilizing, I think those easy receptions could convert into more sustained drives, more red zone chances, all of that. So I'd be adding the Ravens receiving running back before basically everyone resets how we're looking at this offense. I'm not worried about like this team giving up. They're still one of the favorites to lead this division. I think they are still the favorites, like plus 110, I believe, was like the line last week when I looked at this. So even though they're obviously not winning a ton of games, I think they turn it around, and there's a lot of prideful, very good players on this squad. Tyjae Spears, available in 76% of leagues, and then we'll go into some wide receivers here shortly as well. Tyjae Spears' role has been absolutely heating up after he got off the IR. Week 6 usage climbed to 9 touches, 5 rushes, 4 receptions. So not crazy, but he did catch 4 of 4 targets. I think he has it's another one of these guys that has like a bankable passing down role that kind of props up his floor in PPR. So if Tony Pollard, like if anything happens to him in a next man up situation, you want these guys that are already being used in the passing game. If they start to get some carries, it really just props them up as a better value in general. The gap is still kind of narrowing a little bit between Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears in the run game as well. And I think there's like sneaky PPR value here from a stash perspective, but also this offense has kind of struggled to sustain drives. So the receiving work is really the path to the weekly points when things hopefully stabilize a little bit. The committee tightening though, 9 opportunities. Tony Pollard had 10 carries last week. The distribution is kind of getting closer, similar to the Vidal or similar to the Kamara situation. So I think after they knew they were going to get him back, they had a clear plan for him coming back. So I think it's a pretty bullish PPR stash, maybe even a flex before the box score catches up to the trend here. Let's talk about some wide receivers, but at running back again, Tyjae Spears, Justice Hill, Woody Marks, Kimani Vidal, Kendre Miller. Those would be my targets. And then again, Jackson Dart at quarterback, if you haven't grabbed him yet, should not be on waivers. Let's talk about wide receiver. Jayden Higgins, again, trying to grab these guys coming out of their bye when people aren't thinking about them. The bye window, I think, is now. Season high, 39 snaps in week 5 before their bye, obviously in week 6. 4 targets, not crazy, but the usage has been climbing a little bit. And Houston just posted 44. In general, week 5, the offense was absolutely humming in a really good matchup. But I think that the wide receiver growth that we're seeing here for Higgins is positive. 3 20-plus yard receptions, a 24-yard TD in week 4. It's really just the explosive profile in this offense that even on limited looks has been providing some usable weeks for us. 5 catches, 6 targets to start his career. The efficiency is really what we're looking at now. If we start to see a little bit more volume, more targets coming, the trust signals, all of those things, I think it's really solid. And I think we have to kind of figure out what happens next. Like if his snaps like that are going up start to really just meet more targets, that's the situation where we can see big jumps in season highs. And he's already been winning downfield, and the offense has been trending up. So that's a positive thing. Wan'Dale Robinson, available in 39% of leagues. So the volume spike with Neighbors out, 7 targets in back-to-back games without Malik Neighbors. The usage is absolutely locked in. Team high 6 catches, team high 84 yards in week 6. So not just cardio out there, he's actually converting. And I think really this like shallow zone role, this PPR floor that survives kind of the QB volatility. So regardless of what Dart is able to do in the passing game, just those easy layup targets, super valuable in PPR leagues. So last week we did get some efficiencies, some explosiveness, 35-yard touchdown in week 6, proof that just the slot role isn't capped. And I think just if we're trying to find a ceiling, we've already seen it in week 2 as well. 8 for 10, 142 yards and a TD, spike week history, basically. If that volume can come back and the offense starts to stabilize a little bit, he's going to have some value. So I think if the Giants like wide receiver 1 for PPR basically is sitting on waivers right now, he's an easy add. Another easy add, Kayshon Boutte. This New England offense obviously trending up. Kayshon Boutte is available in 92% of leagues right now. So we saw the week 6 spark. The early season volume was there as well. 5 for 5, 93 yards in week 6 with a 21-yard contested win late. Also had that nice touchdown grab as well. Scored in week 2. He hasn't had like some crazy games, but he did lead New England in week 1. If we don't forget, 100 yards, 6 catches. So the staff has already shown that they'll feature him. And these games where Diggs doesn't have as much production, we've really seen Kayshon Boutte step up, which is great. That vertical roll instantly is going to get points with me. So like an outside starter on the opposite of Stephon Diggs is going to be super valuable for a guy that's willing to push the ball down the field like Drake May. Offense is kind of stabilizing a little bit which is nice. So I think we'll start to see some better matchups down the road. And also, I think Boutte is the priority ad while New England is trending up. So you're kind of buying that vertical roll, the efficiency in an offense that's starting to basically be undervalued. But I think the weekly upside is definitely there. Hollywood Brown. So available in 50% of leagues right now. I think the main thing here is just the red zone trust and the immediate points that we're getting here. 4 targets in week 6, 2 basically scheme touchdowns. So I think he's going to get that high leverage usage. They're basically trying to get him the ball in the end zone. And first multi-CD game since 2021. They're comfortable letting him finish drives for sure. And Mahomes is looking for him. And Andy Reid is scheming for him, which is a great combination. The opportunity, if it starts to spike a little bit, he basically has delivered every time that it has. So I don't think that he's the guy that's going to just go away, even with Rashee Rice coming back. I think having a flyer of Hollywood Brown just in case is something that I would love to have on my bench most weeks and have to put him in there in certain situations. The touchdowns in weeks 4 and week 6, he's the finisher. So I think there's always going to be value in that for a team that's going to score a lot of points. Their offense trending up the last few weeks, also the spike week touchdown roll is super valuable. We'll see if Rashee Rice ends up being a big part of this offense right away. If not, we might have a few more weeks here for Hollywood Brown. Kendrick Bourne, 63.8% of leagues he is available. Back-to-back 142-yard eruptions, 10 for 11, 142 yards in week 5, went 5 for 9, or 9 catches for 142 yards in week 6. So the ceiling isn't really just a fluke. It seems pretty repeatable. Obviously, back-to-back weeks. The injury-thinned room in general has just led to real volume. Ayuk still on the PUP list. Pearsall, knee injury. Jennings has been kind of limited with the ribs. All of that, it just has led to them leaning a little bit more on Kendrick Bourne. So if Pearsall misses again, he could be like a top option for San Francisco against Atlanta in week 7. So if the role holds, even just like as the pieces kind of shuffle around him, this is a really nice guy to be adding. I think until they get a little bit healthier. That's it for this one. Make sure you guys drop all your questions below now. I'll try and get to as many as possible on the next video, which is going to be trade targets, which is one of my favorites of the entire week. So hit subscribe and I'll see you next time.